Alright, so we start with a walkthrough for Wakanda machine. In this topology over here, I simplify and outline the main workflow and procedure that we're gonna follow during our walkthrough. So basically, we have here our Wakanda server. Okay, and we have our Kali machine over here. So basically, on Wakanda server, we have the port 80 and port 3030, 3030 for SSH. Those are open ports, okay? And our Kali machine, the tools we're gonna use are Nmap for scanning and kernel for HTTP manipulation to manipulate and view packets that are transferred between the Kali machine and the Wakanda server, okay? So the basic and main objectives for this challenge on this machine is reading 3 flags: flag 1, flag 2, and root flag, okay? The workflow progress. Our first step will be to view the page source of the HTTP, okay, server. Then we're going to apply local file inclusion vulnerability with PHP folders implemented, because basically the machine has some kind of folder that doesn't show PHP files unless we apply PHP folder. Third, we're going to decode index of PHP, and we're going to follow until we get the root flag, okay? And we have the public tools. We're going to need PHP folders and pip exploit tool. The vulnerabilities covered are local file including with PHP folders, which you're going to see on the HTTP server. Credential disclosure after we decode the basic index.php page. Misconfigured file permissions. We're going to exploit a file that is run every 300 seconds and overwrite this file with our own code, which is command injection attack. And then we're gonna there is misconfigured privilege, and this is gonna help us have root access after we exploit the vulnerable application. Okay, this is the basic topology for our challenge. Let's go and start our channel over here. So we start off with network discover. We discover the IP address of our machine. Discover. Or instead we can use Nmap if you want on the subnet 1.0. Okay, basically this is the subnet or the network subnet of your that you are working on. SN for host discovery using ping scan. And now Nmap will try to discover what are the live hosts on our network, which ends with 1.0/24. And meanwhile, we're going to launch another terminal, and in this terminal here I'm going to scan the machine. Of course, I grabbed the IP address before. First I'm going to proceed not to waste time. Nmap, I'm going to disable host identification because I have the IP address. Aggressive scan, and I'm going to use ports. Okay, here we go. So basically the IP address that we need to use is 79, which is over here. Okay, so 192.168. Now we're scanning the machine for possible open ports and services. So let me go back to my topology over here, and I need to now use the page source for the HTTP server. Okay, so let's go now to the web browser, and over here we have the main page of the web server. So let me view the page source, and while viewing the page source you will notice that there is a commented line, and which line indicates that there is some parameter that handles the language display on the web page. So the lang parameter handles the language display on the web page. So if I type FR, it means France, so the page displays French language, or it will display in French language. Let's see that how it goes. So lang equal fr, and you see that the page has been converted and translated into French. Okay, so the next step is apply local file inclusion with PHP folders. How I ended up with this with this progress being a vulnerability that I should chase. Basically, I omitted something on the progress workflow. Basically, if you let me launch directory buster. Now, if you specify the IP address, and over here we specify the word list that's going to be used. User share if I use, for example, use the medium or the large one. I don't think I have the large one over here, so let me go back. Oops. Okay, so big. Now if you start directory buster, you're going to discover that there is a directory called, or a file, which is fr.php. Okay, so there is a file. So if I grab here text fr.php, and let me as pink. So this file over here will be discovered by directory buster. Okay, so while it's in progress, let me pause, okay, because I did this. You're gonna do this easily on your machine, so I'm just gonna skip this step, okay, and let me go above and show you the scan results. So here we have the open port 80 on HTTP protocol, and we have this port on SSH. Okay, so as expected. So let me now show you something on the web browser, which led me to believe that there is a local file inclusion vulnerability. Basically, if you type PHP over here, and again, how I discovered that, you're going to do directory buster, okay, on your machine, and you're going to discover, or you can use Go Buster on your machine, and you're going to discover that there is a file called fr.php, which has something to do with the language display over here. Okay, so if you click enter, you get kind of blank page. It's not, it has not been translated as expected. But what is the relation between PHP, okay, and fr.php and fr without PHP? Basically, when you type without fr, there is some kind of script that that converts or attaches some kind of PHP extension to the fr, so it displays the fr.php file, which converts the page into French language. But basically, this happens behind the scenes, and for some reason, which has to do with PHP folders, we cannot view the file which is fr.php. It means we cannot apply local file inclusion vulnerability, because there is kind of PHP folders that happen or occur behind the scenes. So if you go now to this page over here, so this page displays payloads for local file inclusion, and down there you can see there is all kind of basic LFI without encoding, double encoding, path truncation, folder bypass. So for our challenge, we need the folder bypass for PHP over here. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to apply this folder over here for PHP. So grab this, okay, and instead of fr.php, we're gonna paste this over here and click on, instead of index, we're gonna translate or change this to fr.php in order to see the file. So it's empty. If I cancel the fr.php, and you're gonna see here some kind of base64 decoded. So if I go to curl over here and grab this URL, pipe this to base64. Okay, so this is a text. As you can see, this is a French translated text of the web page. So have you got what happened right now? Basically, the French or fr.php file is the file responsible for translating the page into French, but for some kind of to make it harder to exploit the local file inclusion vulnerability, the developer of the site have applied some kind of a folder for PHP, so you cannot view the files that ends with PHP. Instead, you resort back to the language parameter to view the process of translating the text into French. So here we apply the local file inclusion vulnerability with PHP folders in order to view the file that has been filtered out using PHP folders. Okay, so let's now try to view other files using the PHP folders. Okay, so over here, let me replace fr with index, for example, or etc password. Try to view the password files, but since the password file in the Linux system doesn't end with PHP, this is not gonna work. Okay, just realize that this folder or this folder bypass or this local file inclusion filter bypass only works with PHP files, so you're not gonna be able to see password file over here. So instead, we're gonna try index page, and we're presented with the typical HTTP response, and over here I have the password. Okay, so now we viewed the page source, we applied the local file inclusion with folder. Next, we decoded the index.php file using the base64. Then we're going to need to log into SSH. Now, this is a password. Okay, we're going to grab this, copy, and we're going to log into SSH. But which user we're going to use? Which is Mamado. You can find this user if you scroll down the page, which is Mamado. So right now we're going to use SSH Mamado 681.9, and don't forget to specify the port, which is 4 threes. The password paste, and we are presented with SSH. So in order to escape this Python shell, we're gonna go to my reverse shells file, or privilege escalation, and we're gonna import pty. Oops, there's a file over here. Okay. So copy, and paste. Doesn't work. Oops, okay. So let me remove those lines. Enter. Okay, so we have the shell access. Let's review the work progress or the workflow progress to see what is the next step. So we logged in into SSH. Our next step is modifying the SRV antivirus. How I ended up with the idea of modifying this file. Basically, over here, if you type ID, now we are Memado. Okay. Now, with respect to our objectives, if we go back, our objective is reading the flags. Flag 1, which is read using the index.php. We need to read now flag 2.txt. Okay. Now if you want, since it's our second objective, let's go ahead to this objective and try to read the file by using the find command. Name flag 2.txt and forward this to dev node. We see that the file flag 2.txt is under the directory which is devops. Okay, so this seems to be another user on the system, and if you try to read the file, I think you get permission denied. Yes, permission denied, since we are Memado and we don't have permissions to view or modify or read the file flag .txt. So what is our next step? Our next step is to become DevOps. We need to transfer or change our privilege from being Memado to DevOps. So we can accomplish this by enumerating the user DevOps, and we see what are the files that are run, read, wrote, written, or belonged to this user. We use by find command user DevOps, and we're going to transfer this. Okay, so these are the files, binaries that are owned, written, read by this user. So with respect to my objective, I need to manipulate or review the service antivirus file. Okay, because this is the basic file that is that could be written or modified by my user. How I realize that? Let's go here and lsla serve, or let's see, file serve okay. So again, so here is the permissions for the file antivirus. Okay, you see that others can write this file and can read this file. So this leads you to a conclusion that this file is your next step in order to go from Memado to DevOps. Okay, so go back here. We need to modify this file in order to get shell. Okay, so if you write nano srv okay, so basically this file doesn't look originally like this because I modified this file. So this is my tracks on this file. So you need to paste this reverse shell or this Python. You can connect back shell to your machine. Okay, don't forget to specify your IP address over here and the port that you're going to listen to. Okay, click exit, then be careful not to execute antivirus as Memado. After you modify the file, you need to wait for the file to be executed because the file is running or is scheduled to run every 300 seconds. How I discovered that? Basically, if you try to view the cron tab, Okay, so we cannot view the current tab file. Basically, this file is run every 300 seconds, and if you try to open this file when you first time doing the machine, you're gonna see that the file is doing some kind of, let me show what this file do. Let me go back here. No. So antivirus file, this file, what this file does, okay, because I have done the machine before, this file has been modified, so I overwritten the file with my tracks. So let me show you now what this file contained originally when you first do your machine. Some kind of open temp, I remember that, right? Temp test, and then write, yes. So this file, let me select this color. So antivirus.py, open some kind of test under the temp directory and write, okay, and write some kind of like test or something. I couldn't remember, but it does write on a file under temp directory, and it's hint that this file runs every like 300 seconds, 200 seconds, 100 seconds, etc. It doesn't matter how frequently it executes, but the main thing, it's very self-explanatory to conclude that this file is running on a schedule. So your next step is, after you modify the antivirus file with your Python connect back line of code, you're gonna wait, okay, for a bit, so the antivirus file will establish a connection as DevOps to your machine. Now, before executing this file, you need to have your listener running. So I have here my listener running over here. I'm not doing this step exactly from scratch because it took time to connect from this instance to my machine. That's why I'm doing this directly. So you're gonna wait a bit and you'll have your listener established. So can you grab and catch the connection from antivirus to your machine as Nomad, as DevOps. So after you grab the connection, okay, let's see now our next step. Next step is reading the second flag. Okay, so I think I seem to forget to release a second flag, but meanwhile you can go to home directory and read a second flag. The 8th step is exploiting pip command. Now, after you have changed or escalated your privilege from Nomad to DevOps, your next step is to be root on the system. So self-explanatory, guys. You're gonna execute sudo -l, okay, and sudo -l tells you that you as DevOps can run user pin pipe, okay, or pip with no password. Okay, so we are as DevOps can run pipe command without any password and as sudo. That means I need to execute pipe command and manipulate this command in order to get shell access, root access. How I did this, basically, we go over here to this page. This page has the exploit you need to have in order to exploit this pipe. So here are full instructions on how to do that. Okay, first you're gonna grab the setup file. Okay, so here, over here on separate terminal, okay, you're gonna I'm sorry, yeah, wget http, grab the URL, okay, on your machine, download this file on your machine. Okay, then after downloading the file on your machine, you're gonna go back to the DevOps over here, and then you're gonna download the file out here. So let me look for the instance. Okay, so over here I downloaded the file setup.py from my machine, which is Kali, to the DevOps machine. Okay, now after running the file as per the instructions, okay, over here it says download the file from your machine. Again, from your machine. No one gonna ask me, should I download the file from the website? Okay, download the file from the website to your machine, and then on the DevOps box or the shell box or the SSH box, download the file to the directly to the system or to the DevOps box. Okay, now we have downloaded the file. The next step is we make directory, which is fake pipe, move the already downloaded file setup.py to this directory, and then you're gonna copy paste. Okay, copy paste this command, copy, and then you're gonna paste this command in the directory in which you downloaded the setup.py file. Okay, now then you're gonna have root access on a separate shell. Why? Because the setup.py file, okay, let me show you the file, how it looks like. On a separate terminal. So this file, magic file, of course, when you download the file to your machine, don't forget to change the IP address to your machine, which is Kali machine. Okay, don't forget this step, unless otherwise you're not gonna get shell access, or not gonna get shell back to the machine. Okay, so this file, when this file run, it's gonna connect back to your machine. Okay, as you can see, it has reverse shell, Python reverse shell, and then you're going to connect back to your machine. So don't forget to establish a listener, okay, before running the setup.py on, you say, on the DevOps box. So before running this command, be sure you change the IP address, and be sure you have established the netcat connection, netcat listener. After that, you're going to grab root access. So this way we have finished this machine, and I hope you learned from this machine. Don't forget to give me LinkedIn recommendations if you see that this way of explanation is useful, and if you see yourself learning. Don't forget to give me a recommendation on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and see you in the next video.